Okay, hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today's the 22nd of May 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Wednesday's morning session where we're going to have a look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff, some of the charts that we looked at yesterday, just to see how they've performed. But as always, before we do that, before we jump into that, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Okay, so now then, let's quickly jump into the charts. Now the first one I want to touch on here is the CAC40. Now I do like this index. It is sometimes very technical. Now looking at this one right now, you can see that yesterday the index closed slightly in the positive territory, and but what we're going to do here right now is we're going to keep a close eye on some of the potential breakout points, breakout levels, before we kind of, let's say, get excited with any further directional move. And as you can see by the chart, these are the ones that I'm looking at right now. So basically, in order, let's say, to consider a push higher, ideally we would like to see a nice good break and a close at least of the 4-hour candle above the 5,450 level. This way the index would confirm a forthcoming higher high here, and we could then target the 5,492 zone approximately there, which is near the highs of the 7th of May. Certainly, if this is just seen as a temporary obstacle here for this index, we could see this one traveling further up here towards the 5,535, which marks the low of the 3rd of May. So good potential targets here, but before we could get excited about the upside, we need to see that nice good break above the 5,450 zone. So keep your eyes on that one. In terms of the downside, well, ideally a drop below the 5,340 level could do the trick here for the bears. This way, of course, if we see a drop and then if we see a close of the 4-hour candle below this 5,340 level, this would also place the index below the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and then we will target slightly lower areas. Now the areas that we're going to target, this needs to be slightly adjusted here, guys. So basically, of course, this little low here that we saw around mid-May, so around the 13th of May, which is around the 5,247 zone, something like that, approximately there. Certainly there is a little temporary obstacle here near the lows of the 15th of May, around the 5,298 zone. So, but yeah, like I said, this could be seen just a temporary obstacle before the index could slide lower towards the 5,247 zone, so approximately there. But then again, like I said, before we could get excited with the downside, we need to see that nice good break here below this 5,340 level. So keep your eyes on this one. Gold. Very quickly on this one, so it's a bit of a mess here. So in a way, as you can see, it traveled lower. It managed to break this this key long-term upside support line, or should I say more of a medium-term upside support line taken from the lows of August last year. And of course, this is kind of creating this little bearish atmosphere here. The only thing is that still we are still sticking to our point here, and to the thing that I've mentioned previously, where I've discussed gold, and we need to see this clear break below the 1266 first before we could consider further declines. A drop below this, and a nice close of the 4-hour candle below this 1266 1266 would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and this is where we could target much lower areas like the 1253 or to the 1251 zone, so approximately there. But for now we are somewhat on the neutral zone here. In a way, for us, let's say, to consider upside again, well, ideally, to be honest, ideally we would like to see a nice good push back above the 1288 zone, 1289 approximately there, because this way the commodity would also travel not only above this upside support line, but also could break this downside resistance line. And this is, like I said, this is the level that we're going to be keeping a close eye on. A break above this 1289 could open the path towards the psychological 1300 level or even further up. But again, let's not over speculate too much. For now, in terms of the upside, that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait for that 1289. In terms of the downside, we need to see that nice good clear break in a close of the 4-hour candle below the 1266 zone. So keep your eyes on this one. USDJPY. Now, I talked about this one yesterday and in my traders tea time, and I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this this 200 EMA, because this was our target. And we were at the time when I was looking at this one, we were still trading around here, around the 110.55 zone. So in a way, it did travel higher. It made a nice push towards the 200 EMA, and this is what I was saying, that we may see this small correction back down a little bit. Now, this level here, the 110.45 could act as a good area of support, and this is what it's doing right now, together with today's pivot as well, of course, which is around the 110.40. Now, of course, we'll continue observing that. If it continues to hold, we may see this scenario that I talked about yesterday. We may see this nice good push again to the upside. For those who are more on the cautious side, what you could do here is you could, in a way, wait until we see a push above this above the yesterday's highs, which were excuse me, around the 110.68 zone, 67, something like that. And also, of course, this would place the rate above the 200 EMA, which also could be seen as somewhat as a positive thing here for USDJPY. But for now, guys, be very careful here. Keep a close eye on this support zone here around the 110.40, 45. If even, let's say, this decides to drop lower and tests again the 110.25, still could be seen as a good, nice, positive thing here for the pair. Even if it travels back below it, of course, this is our little neutral territory going to be, because we may see maybe a small rebound here from this upside support line. This is in a way like the last resort here for the bulls to step in and potentially maybe drive higher again. But again, to be honest, if this decides to drop below the 110.25, we will become a little bit, well, we'll become neutral here. But in order to, let's say, to confirm the downside, ideally we would like to see a drop, initially a break, of course, of this upside support line, and a drop below the 110 level, 110 psychological 110 level. So this way we will then target the 109.70, or even actually going further down. But for now, it seems that it could be more positive than negative. But for those who are more on the cautious side, you could in a way wait until we see a push above the 110.67 zone here, which is the yesterday's high, and of course a push above the 200 EMA before we could get excited with the upside. So for now, keep your eyes on these two levels here, guys. GBPUSD. So spectacular performance yesterday during the or should I say after the May delivered its proposal. Of course, we did have a nice spike here to the upside, and this is what I was talking about basically yesterday, to keep a close eye on this area here around this 1.2775 85 zone. We did of course overshoot that a little bit, but failed to reach the other target that I was talking about, the 1.2830. So it was kind of almost managed to reach that, fell shy just a few pips from hitting that, and quickly retraced back down. So now, to be honest, of course this is very, for us, it's not really looking good for the GBPUSD here. The only thing is that before we could get excited with the downside, we need to see a couple of breaks here of a few support levels that we've got on our chart. And let me just quickly adjust this arrow and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So basically the first area that we're keeping a close eye on is of course the yesterday's low, which is around the 1.2685 zone. Slightly below that we do have the 1.2670, and just to show you what that level was in the past, the 1.2670 acted as a very good area, strong area of support here back on the around the 15th of January, from which, as you can see, the pair nicely rebounded and pushed higher. So in a way, we need to see that nice good clear break below this level before we could consider further declines, deeper moves lower. The next target for us then could be this little low here that we saw back on the 4th of January, which was around the 1.2615. But if that fails to withhold, yep, further declines are possible. But again, for now, guys, be very careful with this one. We may see a break lower, of course, but before, like I said, we need to see that nice good break first before we can consider lower areas. And like I said, we need to see that ideally a drop below the 1.2670 would confirm a forthcoming lower low, and yep, we could see this one sliding further down, at least towards the 1.2615 zone. And in terms of the upside, well, ideally, of course, if we see a push above this little level right here today around the 1.2750. Now again, I do apologize for the amount of lines here on the chart. It's a bit maybe confusing, but basically from the very short-term perspective for today only, let's say, if we see a push above the 1.2750, this of course could lead the pair a little bit higher here. The only thing is that the upside could be limited due to this downside resistance line taken from the high of 3rd of May. So for now, that's our game plan. This is what we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Let me just actually put a few highlighted areas here just for our future reference. So basically this is in terms of the upside that we're looking for, and in terms of the downside, this is the level that we're going to keep a close eye on initially. Of course, this is the 1.2685, but again, like I said, slightly below that we do have the 1.2670, just for that better confirmation. And the last pair I wanted to quickly touch on, also I talked about this one yesterday in my Traders Tea Time. That's kind of coming in line with the GBPCHF, GBPUSD as well. So GBPCHF here is stuck still between these two levels, the 1.2820 zone on the downside, something around there, and the 1.2890 on the upside. So we need to see a nice good break through one of these levels before we could get excited about the about either kind of any further directional move. So in a way, as you can see, that's basically a nice good break above the 1.2890 could lead this one higher. The pair could travel towards the psychological 130 level. This is what we're going to be targeting. Yesterday, you see that we did have a nice push here above, but the 4-hour candle never kind of closed above this level. So we need to see a nice good, ideally we need to see a nice good close above the 1.2890 before we could consider a possible move towards the psychological 130 level. In terms of the downside, also ideally we need to see a nice good clear break below the 1.28. And to be honest, actually we could drag this one a little bit lower right now, because probably it's, to be more accurate here, it's what we're going to be looking for here is the 1.2815 zone, so approximately there. So basically keep your eyes on the 1.2815, so just kind of 5 pips lower than the previous level that I had here. So ideally a nice good close of the below the 1.2815 could open the path towards these slightly lower levels. This is where we could then target the 1.2775 or even the 1.2727, which where the last one acted as a good potential a good area of temporary support here as an intraday swing low of the 17th of January. So that's why, guys, for now we're gonna be very careful with this one. Of course, the fact that it kind of traveled back inside yesterday, it traveled back inside this little range here, not good for the pair, but the fact that it's kind of still staying above this these yesterday's lows, this is kind of course, it's still kind of is helping the bulls a little bit. So that's why we're gonna wait this one out. We're just gonna wait until we see a nice good break and a close of the 4-hour candle, either above the 1.2890 or below the 1.2815 zone. So keep your eyes on those. Okay, guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching till the end. I hope you found it useful, as I said, yes. So if you want to join me later on at my trader's tea time, and that's as always 13:15 GMT time. For now, I hope you have a wonderful trading day, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.